stone, but soon too many began to hear it. Soft whispers, barely audible, drifting from within the walls of the chapel. Sometimes it sounded like prayer. Other times, like weeping. But most chilling were the moments when the voices spoke names of the villagers. Often at night, always in hushed tones, as if the walls themselves were confessing secrets no one was meant to hear. Father Marco was the first to admit it. He'd wake in the rectory with a cold sweat, certain he'd heard someone calling him from the nave. When he crept through the dark with a candle, there would be no one there, but the whisper would resume behind him, just barely brushing the edge of his hearing. When he leaned in closer, it would stop. But the feeling of being watched, that never stopped. The walls of the chapel seemed to breathe at night, like something inside them was alive and listening. Then came the reports from the children. Several local boys had been dared to sneak up to the chapel after midnight. What they returned with wasn't laughter, but trembling silence. One eventually told his mother that he'd seen a face in the wall, a woman's face. Pale and bruised, mouth sewn shut, eyes following him as he moved. Another child claimed the statue of Saint Cecilia had turned to look at him, even raising a hand slowly as if trying to hush him. Word spread, and by early spring, even the most devout villagers refused to attend Mass after sunset. In the months that followed, strange disturbances began happening in homes near the chapel. Crucifixes were found turned upside down. Hymn books flew off shelves without wind. Some residents said they'd been awakened at 3:33 a.m. by the sound of nuns chanting in Latin from outside their windows, though no one was there when they looked. Others reported sleep paralysis accompanied by the sensation of being held down by cold hands, hearing whispers that seemed to come from beneath the floorboards. Livestock died without wounds. Mirrors cracked in locked rooms. It was as if something was spreading from the convent outward. The village council considered boarding up the chapel altogether, but Father Marco refused. He claimed to have seen visions, the outlines of the missing sisters, still wandering the halls, praying, sometimes even kneeling at the altar, weeping blood. He said they weren't angry. They were waiting. For what? He didn't know, but he believed it had something to do with the sealed room in the basement, the one no one had dared to open in decades. Though others begged him not to disturb it, Marco insisted he'd found a pattern that the whispers were trying to guide him, and so, in secret, he began to search for the key. The basement beneath the convent had long been sealed off, its existence barely acknowledged, even by those who lived and worked in the building. Generations of nuns had referred to it only as the old kitchen cellar, though no one alive could recall it ever being used. A heavy iron-plated door, reinforced with wooden beams and an aging padlock, stood at the end of a narrow hallway behind the convent's kitchen. For decades, the door remained untouched.